I am offering this poem by Jimmy Santiago Baca is being used as a comparison reading for She Unnames Them by Ursula Le Guin. In this video, I'll provide some biographical context about the poet, as well as discuss some of the features of the poem. Jimmy Santiago Baca has a compelling life story. His parents abandoned him as a child. He survived a period of homelessness as a teenager, and he ended up serving time in prison, having been convicted of drug charges in 1973. While in prison, he learned to read, and eventually he became a writer. Since then, he has published numerous volumes of poetry and prose, and he has devoted much of his life to serving underrepresented communities. His involvement in these communities connects to the themes in his work. Baca takes an unflinching look at poverty and neglect. He also poses the question of how to maintain a sense of one's own dignity in oppressive circumstances. I am offering this poem as Baca's most well-known poem. Before you begin reading it, I want to discuss some of its unique aspects. I'm going to go over the purpose of the poem, some of its unique genre conventions, as well as its structure, to help you better understand it. First, its purpose. The poem has a dual purpose. It is a gift to a loved one and an expression of the power of poetry and words. It's important to know that a text can have more than one purpose. As you're reading through this, ask yourself which purpose you think is stronger in this poem and why. Next, let's talk about one of its genre conventions, metaphor. The metaphor used in this poem compares this poem itself to familiar everyday objects. This adds a layer of meaning to the poem's message. Finally, let's discuss structure. This poem has a complicated structure with varying line and stanza lengths, a refrain, and enjambment. If you aren't familiar with those terms, let me quickly explain. Line and stanza lengths refer to the lines in a poem as well as how many lines make up a block of text in the poem before there's a space. This helps control the pacing of the poem. Think of a stanza almost like a paragraph in prose writing. A refrain is a verse or a phrase that is used repeatedly throughout a poem. This gives the poem a rhythmic, musical quality, almost like a chorus in a song, and often gives us insight into the meaning or the theme of the poem. An enjambment is when the sentence runs from one line to the next, as opposed to ending with punctuation on one single line. For example, look at line 2. Keep it like a warm coat when winter comes over you. Notice how that verse is wrapped into 2 lines. This also helps create kind of a musical rhythm or a meter in the poem. And that brings us to the learning objective and tasks for this reading. The learning objective is to demonstrate your understanding of a poem's ideas by comparing and contrasting it with another text. The other text in this case is She Unnames Them by Ursula Le Guin. And here are your tasks. First, if you haven't already, watch the video preview and read the introduction on tab 1. This will better help you understand what you're about to read. Next, complete the vocabulary drag and drop activity on tab 2 to make sure that you are familiar with some of the words that are used in the poem. You can use Google to look up the words, and you don't have to write your own sentences. Next, read the summary of the poem. This will better help you follow it. Then, read and annotate the poem. As you're reading, think about how the author uses metaphors and his ideas about the power of poetry and words. Finally, since you're using this as a comparison text, you won't have to complete a reading quiz. However, I would encourage you to discuss the questions below this video with a partner. Doing this will definitely help you in comprehending the poem. And that's about it. I hope you enjoy this poem, but if you get lost in it or you need help, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask me.